Hi everyone, it's Lisa from the blog Farmhouse on Boone, where I like to write about food from scratch, natural living in a handmade home. And today I want to tell you about this linen dress, why I made it and how I made it without too much prior clothes making experience. My sister is a photographer. We had the idea to do a photo shoot for my maternity. We had a vision for something simple and minimal. We decided that we really wanted some linen. Linen kind of has that pretty vintage texture. Felt like linen would be perfect for it. So I started looking online for some linen dresses, and I found out very quickly that it was sort of out of my price range because all the dresses I could find were $100 or more. And so, being the DIYer that I am, I thought, you know, actually I could just make that. I've had a little prior experience with tracing dresses to make my own patterns, mostly with kids' clothes. I do that often. I never use patterns for kids' clothes and I just kind of trace around the outside, and I thought, why couldn't I do that with an adult dress? I found a shirt that I have. It's a maternity shirt, so it has the shape that I wanted. And then I also took another shirt I own that had the neckline that I wanted. And then I kind of just pieced that together, and then also found a shirt I have that has the sleeves that I wanted. And I traced all those pieces to come up with something that I thought would be great. First, I decided to make a shirt, which I wore in my last video, the Farmhouse Finds for My Kia video. I'll insert a small clip of me talking so you can see me wearing it. I made that with a 50% linen blend so that I could kind of make sure that I knew how to do it before I went into using the good linen, because this was made from 100% linen, which is pricey. So it's still way cheaper than buying a pre-made dress that's over $100. I bought 2 yards of this. I think it was around $32. It has that kind of loose weave that you see with linen that makes it so pretty and look kind of vintage. A few differences I made with the second time around. I added sort of a cuff here at the bottom, and I thought that would be nice because then whenever I flip the sleeves up to make them 3/4 length, it looks nicer than seeing the seam on the inside, which is what you see on my shirt. I made this kind of a loose fitting because women's clothes you normally need to put darts and things like that to make it fit all the curves. So I just made this loose fitting but added ties. So it really works well for maternity. It's a very basic dress that can just slip on, and I want to show you how I made it and how I traced the pattern from clothes that I have. I started by taking my piece of linen and folding it in half, and then laying the shirt that I wanted to copy in half, lining up the folded parts. Now this is a maternity shirt because I am 35 weeks pregnant, but if you are not expecting, you can go ahead and put on whatever shirt fits you fine. I just outlined the shirt's shape, being sure to go around not getting the sleeves in, but where the sleeves actually connect. And then I extended it all the way down because I planned to make this a dress and not a shirt. You may notice that I drew my line about 1 inch or a 1/2 inch out from my shirt, and that is because 1, I wanted to be sure I have plenty of room because I am growing at the moment, and 2, I needed to allow for a seam allowance, which you will also need to do, so just be sure to mark your line about a 1/2 inch out from where the shirt actually ends. Now I really liked the shape of that denim button-up shirt for my dress, but I didn't like the neckline because it had a button-up neckline. So I chose a different shirt that I have that had the neckline that I wanted to use. This is a little bit more difficult to do without actually tearing the shirt apart, but you just kind of have to fold the shirt in half, line it up with the folds, and trace around. At this point I'm doing the front neckline. And then for the back, almost all shirts have back neckline that goes up just slightly higher than the front. So right now I am just working on cutting out the front neckline, which plunges a little deeper than the back neckline, and I will show you that in a little bit. So next I measured the top of where my neckline should hit and then measured down how far I wanted the dress to go, and I just cut the dress off there. Now make sure to leave enough room for the seam. Next, I took the front of the dress and I folded it in half, lined it up with some more linen that was folded, cut the neckline slightly higher, and then other than that, just copied it. And this will be the back of the dress. Next, I use the sleeves from a shirt I have to trace the length and shape of the sleeves that I would have to go on the dress. You can see here how I line up the shirt and the sleeve to get the shape for around the arm area. Note here that both the dress and the sleeve are folded in half while I'm getting this shape. Here are all the pieces kind of all lined up for you to get the idea of how this is going to go together. You will notice that I also cut out two 30-inch by 3-inch pieces that I'm going to use to make the ties on the side. So here I'm showing you where I'm going to go sew. Here at the top of the shoulder, down the sides of the dress, and down the sides of the sleeves. Now first I'm going to make those ties because they actually have to get fit in before I sew down the sides. So I'm showing you how I folded them in on the top and sides to secure all the raw edges inside. I'm just going to sew all the way around just like that. I pinned the ties in 5 inches down on both sides and then went ahead and sewed down the sides of the dress with those in place. At this point in making a dress, it's a very good idea to try it on and be sure that everything is fitting okay before you attach the sleeves, because you can always take it in more on the sides or readjust the neckline at this point. So next, I am cutting out the neck facing. So basically, I cut around the neckline on the front and back, and you will see the shape. And this is just to sew the raw edges in so there are no raw edges around the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of round this out so that it's not too big of a facing. I just want it big enough to hide the raw edges, which you will see how I do. Right now I'm cutting out the facing for the back of the neckline, and then I will be cutting out the front, which plunges down a little bit more, and I will line them up at the shoulder seams. I'm just sewing the facing together at the shoulder seam so that I can put it inside the dress. I'm also going to serge around all the outsides. If you don't have a serger, you can go ahead and use a zigzag stitch just to enclose all those raw edges. Now I'm going to show you how to put this neck facing into the neckline of the dress. So basically you can see how it lines up just right, and I'm going to sew all the way around the neckline, which I'm going to show you here with my fingers just so that you're able to see. And then I'm going to be pressing it out. Make sure that you have right sides together at this point,
and then I'm going to just sew a small seam to put all the raw edges inside the dress so that they are not showing. After sewing around the neckline, I went ahead and serged the neckline and facing so that the raw edges were all kind of enclosed. If you have a zigzag stitch, that works too. Now I'm just going to turn it in toward the dress and press it down to make a nice clean neckline. After pressing it down, I just sew a very narrow seam all the way around the neckline to keep the facing in place. Next, I'm going to show you how to put the sleeves in. So basically, you can kind of see how I have the sleeve turned facing the right way, and I put it inside the right way of the dress so that the right sides are facing. And I line up the side seam with the bottom part of the sleeve and put a pin there to keep that nice in place. And then I just sew all the way around the sleeve area. Now you could run into a few problems here if it's not the perfect fit. Don't worry, you can always use a seam ripper, rip it out, and make the sleeve more narrow or the dress more narrow or whatever you need to do to make them line up and meet back around without any puckers. If you're confident that your sleeves are in how you want them, just go around with a zigzag stitch or serger. Now at this point you can go ahead and just hem the sleeves up, or you can make a little cuff like I did. So I cut out 4 pieces that would, after being stitched on the sides there, would line up to be the same size as my sleeves. After sewing the 2 seams down the side, I pressed the seams open, and I'm going to just create a little cuff by folding in the top edges and pressing and then folding them in half, which you will see. I will then put the sleeve inside of it and sew all the way around. One last step, of course, was just to hem the bottom of the dress to the desired length, and that is how I made this linen dress.
So there you have it. That's how I copied my clothes and made a linen dress. I hope I've encouraged you to maybe give that a shot for yourself. Definitely get some fabric at first that isn't very expensive, maybe some 100% cotton. Play around with it and make something that you can experiment on and just try your hand at it, because the first couple times you will make some mistakes. I've made other dresses before for me, and I'm not a pattern person. They frustrate me, and I feel like they never end up fitting. To me, copying the clothes is a more reliable way because I take a shirt that I know fits and I copy it. It's a process that takes some experimenting with, so definitely try it. Just get some inexpensive muslin, maybe from Walmart for $2 a yard, and make sure everything fits you just right. Just something to try and experiment with and enjoy trying your hand at in your own home. I don't know about you, but I just love trying new things and learning how to make things with my own 2 hands. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or what you like best about the tutorial and what you plan to make with it. Also keep in mind you can use the exact same techniques making dresses for your kids, and a lot of times those are even easier because their bodies don't have all the curves to work around. If this is your first sewing project ever, maybe start there. Start with kids' clothes. You can trace them the same way. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear what you're making. Also, if this is your first time stopping by, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you along for more videos like this, tutorials, and just me experimenting in my home making things, also some food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse.